at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. In the meantime, as I said, yesterday we received all the phone calls were from America's over-the-road professional drivers. Today, we're going to endeavor to open the phone lines up early and get a more detailed report from the drivers. The last caller yesterday, I know we were pressed for time. He was from Minnesota. I was having a hard time understanding what he was saying. My fault, not his. Logan said, I think what he was trying to say is he goes to some truck stops. He's not seeing any American drivers. Wow. Now, yesterday, I reached out to the AmericanTruckers.org. You heard yesterday the testimony from Harvey Beach before the committee in Arkansas. They're working on this across the country. Last night, I had Shannon Everett on. Shannon is the co-founder of AmericanTruckers.com. I had him on last night. He's about to come on right now with us here because we, as I said, have gotten a big response. In fact, I would say it's one of the biggest responses we've received in a long time on any given topic. We get from time to time issues we cover that our phones light up, text, email, and that's exactly, feedback on the website, and that's exactly what's happened. So clearly something's going on here. What we're also hearing from is a lot of professional drivers. One right here. Thank you for bringing attention to the foreigners in our trucking industry. I work in accounting for logistics and a company in Collierville. So this gentleman's right in my backyard. I have been there since 2015. I can tell you that around 90% of the truckers I deal with are Middle Eastern. Think how easy it would be for them to weaponize these trucks. And one thing Brandon may ask them, like my guest here today, is the fraud they're seeing. We've had these probably illegals use our rate sheets, insert their address and phone number under our name, and use our MC number, and are doing business fraudulently using our info. This is widespread. Okay, this is the kind of feedback we're getting from America's professionals on this topic. Now, another question I asked yesterday that I wanted to do the homework on was, does this have anything to do with what Phyllis Schlafly, the late Phyllis Schlafly, and I were talking about 12, 15 years ago? She was warning about this sort of thing. And the NAFTA highway. Well, anyone can go look up the NAFTA superhighway and see the map see the route coming out of Mexico through Dallas, on up through Oklahoma, on up through the country, up through Iowa, up through Minnesota, into Canada, at the very top, actually, of what looks like, I think that's Duluth, the top there. So Minnesota and Wisconsin. Then another highway breaks off, goes on up through Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota to Canada. There's another highway known as the CAN-Amex corridor, is a series of improvements to freeways and other transportation infrastructure linking Canada to Mexico through the United States. It was established under the North American Free Trade Agreement. Okay, so let's ask, is this all just getting ready for really a North American Union and cheap drivers, inexpensive drivers, driving down the wages? Not to mention the drivers that are driving without the proper credentials, can't read the signs, don't speak the language, and the many fatalities we talked about yesterday, and we looked up some of those, and I played some of that on TV last night, and the crash scenes. Joining me now, because you guys are demanding us cover this more, is Shannon Everett with AmericanTruckers.com. Shannon, welcome to the VCY Network, Worldview Tube, our Christian network partners. By the way, I don't know much about you until last night, didn't know much about you until last night. You started off the broadcast by saying that our calling you believe was divinely inspired. And then you said, take a look at our logo. What is in your logo that you told our audience last night?
Yeah, when we started this organization, me and my co-founder we're both Christians, and we had saw the wreck of Scott Miller and felt a calling of the Lord to get involved in this because of our experience and our expertise and our knowledge of the loopholes that exist. And when we did, we created a logo and we there were several verses that we wanted to put on there, but one of them was Psalm 34. So on the actual license plate of the truck of our logo, it's Psalm 34, which is taste and see that the Lord is good. And of course, there's a lot more to that. That's one of the Psalms that David wrote from the Cave of Adullam. But then also on the air dam on top of the truck, there's a circular coin, and there's these coins that we pass out. Anytime I get the opportunity to pray with someone or witness to them, I usually give them that. And on that coin, there's also 3 additional verses: Joshua 1, Ephesians 6:10 about the armor of God, and then Ecclesiastes talking about the braided cord.
Well, good for you. Well, that was a real blessing because I didn't know any of this about you till I contacted you, and I found out about that all live on the air last night. So again, indeed providential. Pick it up with my opening statement, and I want you to just share with our audience what your organization is doing, not just in Arkansas, but across the country, and how serious this is. And does indeed this tie into a North American union, a NAFTA, superhighway, et cetera? The floor is yours, Shannon.
Yeah, it definitely does tie into that, and I would say that because this started in Europe. They're simply modeling the trend that they had already put in place in the European Union when the Eastern European countries came into the Western European countries, and all of their truck drivers took away the jobs of the truck drivers in the Western European bloc. And so your Western European nations, Germany, France, all of those countries tend to have a higher living standard. They tend to have a higher prevailing wage. And so when they tried to put that European Union together, they had all these Eastern European countries where everybody was still paid, low wages, and there was a very large disparity between the two groups. And so naturally what happens is that new group takes over, and the market share of all of the business that the other group has, and ultimately you end up getting replaced. And so that's one of the reasons that we started American Truckers United. I used to be the CEO of a fleet of 1,000 trucks. And in 2019, I had to lay off 450 American truck drivers due to competition with foreign commercial truck drivers. And so we had lost a significant amount of contracts in that year to companies that weren't using American truck drivers. And so I went around meeting with our legislators about the issue and asking for them to do something. And they kept saying, well, you're the only one saying anything. You're the only one saying anything. I went to the Trucking Association. I said, hey, guys, I need your help with this. They pretty much told me, hey, we need you to quit making a bunch of noise about this. This is not an issue that we want to support. And there's a lot deeper to that. That's a part of my testimony. And I hope to be able to share my full testimony about exactly how all this got started one day. And I'm not prepared to do that today, but just know there's more to that story. And so I put it down in 2020, and I didn't work on it, because I couldn't get any help. And so for 3 or 4 years, I bought into another business, and I got into the reefer space. I got away from the cross-border NAFTA lanes like you were talking about. That business that I was running with 1,000 trucks, almost 80% of my business was cross-border Mexico and Canada lanes. And so I'm very familiar with NAFTA. And so I got into a business that was domestic freight and regional and refrigerated and food stuff. And it's like, okay, I'll go over here and I'll mess with this and I'll get away from those guys and I won't have to compete with them. And I'll just use my expertise to expand in this vertical. And that worked for about 3 years. And then, we went into the they call it the Great Freight Recession that started in 2022. I don't call it a freight recession. I call it an artificial supply crisis. And so I'll get into that too here in just a minute. But, I was telling my friends everybody knew my story. And I said, guys, I think this is bigger. I think what I experienced over there, they're not going to stop. If there's nobody regulating how many can come and throttling the supply of these drivers, I mean, we'd have to be silly to think that they're not going to start taking the other freight too. And that's what's happened. It's expanded beyond that, but it's even worse, because now, because of these non-domiciled CDLs, my problem at the old business was foreign CDLs. Now we have this whole new thing that no one in the industry is aware of or knows about, and that's the non-domicile commercial driver's license. Look, I've been doing this for 25 years. It wasn't until last year that I saw my first one and was made aware of exactly what that was. And the interesting part about all this is, so we get into this new freight recession, and all these trucking companies are going out of business, and my friends are struggling. Now my new business is struggling. And I'm like, guys, I know what it is, and so I started passing my theories around, and my friends are like, you know what, you're right. This is definitely something that we should all be focused on. But nobody wants to be the get involved in the revolution. It's a very lonely thing, especially at first. There's a lot more people involved now, but when we first started working on it, we were just kind of kicking around. Hey, let's call the trucking association up. Let's call our legislators, and then Scott Miller was killed.
All right, let's come back to the break. We got a hard break. The computer's going to take it away, and we'll remind our audience who Scott Miller is. We covered that last night. You guys got to hear this, okay? We're also getting communication live on the air. I don't know if this is coming from our Facebook page or where, but the guys just let me know. Carol says, let's not leave out the so-called Canadian drivers. They are not Canadian. Our country has been flooded with these trucks legally because of Canadian ownership in U.S. trucking companies. So again, this seems to be a big problem, and we're going to get to the bottom of it and how it could actually disrupt our food supply, which is a national security issue. Don't go away. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back to Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. And we're going to open phone lines early today because I want you, America's professional drivers, I want you to be able to call in, give us a report on the ground, and I want you to be able to talk with Shannon. I understand we're one of the few organizations covering this. That's what we're hearing from you, the audience, that we're one of the few organizations covering this. Now, Logan, is last night's interview up online yet? Okay, if you go to, we're going to make an article out of it as well. If you go to worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com, here's what I want all of you to do. I go there myself. worldviewtube.com. And when you scroll down the page, there it is. Right now, while we're on the air, it's right there. American truckers under siege. Non-citizen drivers threaten lives and livelihoods. Okay? What I want you to do is grab that URL, and I want you to tweet it at our president. What's his Twitter handle, Logan? POTUS? So at POTUS, right? What might be better? We'll do both, right? Let's do both. You can tweet him this link. Say, Mr. President, let's make American trucking great again. We need to deal with this national security problem detailed in this show. So at POTUS, Mr. President, we need to make American trucking great again and deal with the national security crisis of illegal non-citizen drivers. I don't think he knows about this. Shannon doesn't think he knows about this. But I think if he knows about it, something's going to start happening pretty fast. Now, on Truth Social, what's his handle there? At Real Donald Trump. And that's on Truth Social only, Logan? at Real Donald Trump on Truth Social. So again, go to World YouTube, please. Grab the URL of last night's show, American Truckers Under Siege, Non-Citizen Drivers Threaten Lives and Livelihoods, and let's alert our president, because I don't think he knows about it. Do you? Last night you said you don't think he does. Are you still holding to that, Shannon? You don't think President Trump knows about this, do you?
No, I don't. I think that's because we're one of the only organizations sharing the story, and we have not been able to make contact with him at this time.
So you're not being interviewed by a lot of news outlets, is that right?
That's right. We've just recently started getting coverage.
Do you know what I mean?
So, but nothing on the national level. It's all been local news organizations and more of your specialized news organizations.
So we got a scoop here, is what they call it in the business, and you're just one state over. I don't know where in Arkansas. I'm outside of Memphis. I don't know if you knew that or not, Shannon.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm in Little Rock.
Oh, yeah. So you're 3 hours away. All right. So let's go back to what you were saying before the break. Remind our audience who Mr. Miller is.
Okay. So the Scott Miller crash happened in June of 2024. And that was, so we're already feeling the economic impact of the situation. And then we see this man, he's an owner operator truck driver, but he was in his personal vehicle at the time of the crash. And when he was hit and killed by a guy named Ignacio Cruz Mendoza, this guy had been deported 16 times. He was under deportation orders at the time of the accident. He had a conductor, Mexican commercial driver's license in his possession. He did not possess a U.S. commercial driver's license. It's my understanding the validity of the license from Mexico was even in question. And then, he loses control of his truck going down a hill, and he had a flatbed shipment, and the load come off of the trailer because it wasn't secured properly, because he hadn't been trained properly, and then the load landed on top of Scott and crushed him and killed him. And we saw that, and that was my calling moment, where I just really felt the Lord tell me, son, the loopholes that exist here. Up until that time, I didn't know that people were being killed. I knew people were losing their jobs, and I just really felt compelled to get up and start speaking about this issue. So I called up my friend Harvey, who's the guy that y'all seen in this video that's now gone viral, and we agreed to form a new organization because the trucking associations who we'd reached out to did not want to talk about immigration. They did not want to help us on the issue of immigration, and so we literally have had to form our own association just so we can talk about immigration, whether it's because of their focus on the labor cost, or it's their focus on political correctness. Neither one's acceptable. The fact that we have these large organizations that are supposed to be speaking up for the interest of the American truck driver, but yet you can go back and look at all of their information on their websites and in their social media posts. They never talk about immigration and the impact that it's having on our roadways for public safety, and the issue that it's having on the living standards of our American truck drivers, and the issue that it's having with national security. Let's
talk about private equity firms. Have you had a chance yet, and if you haven't, I would urge you to do so, but have you had a chance yet to look at any private equity firms that are buying up big trucking companies?
No, that's not been a part of any of our investigation.
I am concerned about big equity firms, if they're doing that, or any big firms, any big financial houses doing this, that again have globalist mentalities. So that would be my concern. What do you make of the person that's, I guess, coming from Facebook, stating, "Don't forget about Canada"? That the exact quote here is, do not leave out Canada, so-called Canadian drivers that are not Canadian. Our country has been flooded with these trucks legally because of Canadian ownership in U.S. trucking companies. Do we have any foreign companies coming in here and buying American trucking companies, Canadian trucking companies, Mexican trucking companies that are pushing this NAFTA highway idea and envelope?
He's absolutely right. And look, there's so many tentacles to this thing. It's a very complicated issue, and I think that's one of the struggles that we've had in getting the entire the remedy to our representatives and legislators to fix this, is because it's not just, this one thing. If we fix this one thing, it fixes all of it. No, there's several different legs here, and the Canada drivers is one of them. And so, look, when we signed reciprocity with Canada and said, hey, y'all can send your drivers down here and we'll send our drivers up there, I believe everyone in that room expected to get Canadians. And the problem that he's talking about, look, we don't have a problem with the Canadians that they're sending over, but they're not sending Canadians. The loose immigration policies in Canada have allowed for countries from Asia and Eastern Europe, mostly Asia, India specifically, to flood into the provinces of Ontario and I believe Quebec. And those two areas are now hotbeds of all of this immigration, and almost all of them want to be in the trucking industry. And so they're not doing any trucking in Canada, though. They're abusing that reciprocity that we have with Canada. They're coming down here on what's called a B1, B2 tourist visa. It's not even a work visa, but because they're coming from Canada and they're appearing to be Canadians, they can come down here on these visitor visas, and they're performing work in the United States. And it's egregious. And the caller is absolutely right. It's no different than the situation we got coming from the South. And so, look, I think because they have abused our trust in all of this, like all of this reciprocity should just be rescinded. Like, you have breached our trust. Us calling for controls to be in place and rescinding your reciprocity is not us doing something that's outside of the agreement. They are the ones that have breached the agreement.
All right, let's go to your Twitter feed, American Truckers. What is your? I'm trying to find out. Here it is.
It's at ATU Truckers.
There it is. At ATU Truckers. Okay, so if you want to follow them on X, it's at ATU Truckers. All right. Now you have a lot of information up here that people should follow. New crash in Texas. 3 people killed. Need help here to identify the truck driver involved. High school baseball player. Parents killed in crash on the way to a game. You guys are tracking all these. We have another one where we talked about last night and yesterday. That was a crash, I think, in Austin, and there was 5 people killed. I think a family of 4 killed in that one. That was by an illegal driver as well. He's on video being confronted by another professional driver telling him, you just killed a bunch of people. I'm showing now a quick picture of where Mr. Miller was killed by this unvetted migrant behind the wheel, who I think had to be was deported 16 times, right, Shannon?
Yeah, he was. And so I just want to bring up a quick point there. So if he was deported 16 times, that means he snuck back in 16 times. And so each time we understood that he got a different driver's license. And so literally we're facing a moment here where this guy did not receive an appropriate sentence. He's now being deported back to ICE, or by ICE back to Mexico. He's going to try to come back into the country. And because we don't have any regulations and controls in place, either in state legislation or in federal legislation, Ignacio can actually get another CDL if he's successful in sneaking back in.
Let's go to the national security threat of who's driving these trucks. Yesterday we were on the air. Somebody had a Penske truck, I guess, ran some people down in Boston. I think 1 fatality, injuries. I don't know. I'd never had time yesterday with the news cycle to look into what was behind that. But we have seen people running people down with trucks. Now you have these people coming in here from Somalia, from the Middle East. Now they're driving humongous 18-wheelers. I mean, you want to talk about the number of people you could kill getting that thing up to a high speed and just tearing up cars in that are stopped on the interstate, or who knows what else you could maybe use those trucks for, right? I don't even want to talk about that. But then let's talk about something you have on your website at American Truckers, on your Twitter. Contaminated meat could be a security threat. Chain of custody is shattered. This food will be resold. No one can guarantee it's safe. Temps unchecked. Contamination risk ignored. Poisoning unruled out. Tell me what you're talking about here.
Yeah, so you mentioned it earlier that there's more fraud going on in the industry. Fraud actually increased 400%. Freight fraud in the trucking industry after the years 21 and 22. And so we are having, not only do we have a highway safety epidemic, not only do we have a national security epidemic with these truck drivers, we have a fraud epidemic with these truck drivers. And the issue that I'm addressing when it comes to stolen food is, look, I'm very experienced in the industry. And so I know the chain of custody protocols that are involved in making sure that everyone's food is safe. And so, in our industry, we take pride in making sure that the chain of custody is not broken, that The dock workers hand over the paperwork to the drivers. He signs for it. The trailer is sealed and locked. It's maintained temperature. There's temperature devices in the load so that when you get to the distribution center of the major retailer, they can validate that and check that and make sure that custody is not broken. So everybody, look, we're a high trust society, but we have some controls in place to make sure that nobody breaches that trust. When somebody steals 2 loads of meat like that, there's no trust. So that entire chain of custody is now void and null and is not doing anything for anyone. And so they could literally, park that truck out behind their shop because they're hiding it. They've stolen it. They could let the temperature get up to 50 degrees and then turn the temperature back down, sell that to some wholesaler or restaurant provider. And the people that are eating in restaurants have no idea that they're eating contaminated meat, or they're eating meat that the temperature wasn't protected or controlled.
Well, what about using this to spread a bioweapon of some kind? I mean,
absolutely, and you would never know. You would never know. And I don't want to give these guys any ideas, but your mind can just try to.
Well, it comes down to we have devalued the importance of our professional over-the-road drivers for our just-in-time inventory, what we need for our families, our businesses, our daily life, but also, as you already pointed out now, the massive national security. And this is what happens when a nation becomes passive and apathetic, or even some people become greedy. Phone lines open early, 1-800-347-9829. Get on board, American truckers. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, folks, again, we're going to go to the phone lines early for American truckers, over-the-road professional drivers. We'd like to hear from you. Yesterday, you flooded the phones. We want you to do that again today. We want to hear from you with a report on the ground so our audience understands this is not hype. This is not sensationalism. We want the American people to hear from you what you guys are personally seeing, how this is impacting our safety as Americans and your livelihood as a job, as well as the national security implications we've already touched on. 1-800-347-9829. Make your comments as quick as you can so we can roll through as many calls as we can. 1-800-347-9829. Again, 1-800-347-9829. Now, before we go to those calls, please go to worldviewtube.com. Grab the URL from last night's broadcast. Please tweet it to the president. Shannon and I both believe he does not know about this. We also believe if he does, you'll start hearing about it and action taken. So go to WorldviewTube, please. Grab the URL from last night's TV show where we included video of these crashes, more than one, went into great detail last night. And then tweet it at him at POTUS for X, at POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, President of the United States is what it stands for, at POTUS. If you want to send it to him on True Social, what is that, Logan? At Real Donald Trump? At Real Donald Trump on social media. He also has another account on X, I'm being told, also called on X, at Real Donald Trump. So it gives you 3 places. And if thousands and thousands of Americans send him the link of last night's show with Shannon and all these videos of these horrific crashes and these illegals that are doing them, and what a national security implication this is, it will rise to his attention, and I think we might get some action taken. I would ask the president to please bring Shannon and Mr. Everett, his partner, co-partner. I got to look up his name real quick. Where'd it go? No, Shannon's last name was Everett. Shannon and his co-founder, Harvey Beach. I would love to see Shannon and Harvey be invited to the White House to visit with President Trump about this. Let them share all of this with the president, okay? And we mentioned that in last night's TV show as well, okay? There you go. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Again, we're opening up early, hoping to hear from America's truckers. Let's go, 1-800-347-9829. Let's go to Chastine in North Dakota, line 1. Hi, Chastine. Hi, Chastine. All right. Chastine,
Hello?
You there?
Hello?
Yep.
Hello?
Gotcha.
Okay. I had to pull over.
Well, good for you. Be safe.
Jason.
Yeah, Jason.
I'm up here in the Bakken oil field.
I'm mispronouncing your
and,
name, Jason. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I was like, I wasn't sure if that was
That's
me
you.
or somebody else.
It's me, not you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm up here in the Bakken oil field, and a lot of what you guys are describing everywhere in the world, and they don't know how to drive, and you see the accidents everywhere. And I myself have almost been taken out quite a few times, actually. And we have things like North Dakota or the Bakken fail of the day on Facebook, and if you just look up big rig wrecks, you'll find a lot of it here. And the thing about these vehicles here is a lot of them are 105,000 plus pounds, because it's oil field traffic. So, and these guys, they don't know how to drive.
And where are you
I've heard
seeing them
stories
from? Well, can you tell nationalities? Are we talking Somalia, Middle East? What are we talking? Can you tell?
All of the above.
One of the drivers yesterday said he gets out at some truck stops, doesn't see any American drivers. Can you testify to that?
I see maybe one or two.
One or two American drivers out of the whole crew.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for your call.
And there's also a lot of headphones on people out here. Like, they can't hear anything else that's going on. Part of that is, they got maybe their phone or the radio, but headsets, I wouldn't imagine that's exactly safe. I used to have a CDL myself, and you can't hear anything that's going on outside of the truck if you got headphones on.
Wow, great call. Thank you, as always, for calling in. North Dakota. Alan, line 2. Alan from Wisconsin. Hi, Alan.
Hey, Brandon, glad you're talking about this. Actually, after get through, Jeff Zink is going to Washington. We've been talking about this stuff. He's going to get that to Trump. And we had to close our trucking business because of this stuff.
Okay, Alan, you're the trucker that I asked you to call in yesterday, but you must not have been listening yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had some family issues.
That's all right, but you're
Sorry.
a regular over-the-road professional driver that I talk to on text quite a bit. You keep me informed. But you had a family business you had to shut down over this, but you're still over-the-road driving, right, Alan?
Yeah, I'm driving for another company right now, yes, because we had to shut our business down with 22 trucks. And like what they're talking about, we did reefers hauling food. I know of vendors who would have to call the police on foreigners because they wouldn't wash out the trucks or have blood in it or bugs. And they didn't care, but they'd have to call the cops to get them out of there, to leave the premises to get the trailers washed out. So this gentleman's right on the money. And I'd like to get him hooked up with Jeff Zink when you get a chance there. But, yeah, I've been talking to Jeff about this. And also, you'll have 4 or 5 of them in one truck. We can't compete with that with the DOT laws and all that.
Wow. Thank you, Alan. 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. I want to have Shannon come in here. 4 or 5 in a cab, we can't compete with that. Tell me about that, Shannon.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that they're doing is they're bringing these guys over and then they're letting them train each other, and so there's an effort right now across the country to reduce our licensing standards and to reduce our training standards. And it's in order to accommodate this model that they've got of letting these guys train themselves and train one another. And so I believe there's a bill right now actually that's sponsored by one of the senators out of Illinois. I'm sorry, I'm missing his name right now, but the bill calls for allowing the licensing standards to be reduced, but also I believe to allow them to train while sleeping. So the guy who's actually supposed to be training the driver is asleep in the sleeper while the trainee is driving.
Oh, wow.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That defeats the whole purpose of training.
Well, why would you be training on the road anyway?
Well, so they do after a driver has received his license and has his permit, he is allowed to drive under supervision so he can be trained. But the driver's supposed to be awake. He's supposed to be in the jump seat, and he's supposed to be monitoring everything that's going on.
Yeah, I guess it's like getting a permit as a kid, but difference is a car, of course, can kill people. Obviously, we know that, but the difference is a semi truck is a lot heavier, and I mean that just kind of interesting to think about. You're passing someone who's actually being trained on how to drive a truck.
I actually heard a story last week when I was at the Mid-America Truck Show, and it was another driver explaining a situation similar to what this one just did. And he said that he was at a truck stop in Utah, and he saw a truck pull in with 4 drivers in it, get out and get in an Uber, and Uber arrived with 4 more drivers, and those 4 drivers got in the truck. Very suspicious. The types of things that we're describing, these have not been common to the industry in my 25-year history. All this stuff has really gotten out of control in the last 5 years.
And how easy would it be, Shannon, if you have international companies involved and they decide, you know what, we're going to shut down America. We're tired of MAGA. We're tired of the issues related to illegal immigrants and illegal invaders, as we call them. But they decide, you know what, we're just going to crash America. And now they've got control of our just-in-time inventory, and they stop all their trucks. How close are we getting where we're putting foreign companies and foreigners who are not vetted controlling our just-in-time inventory? That means our food. When the average grocery store in America has only 3 days worth of food, and that's if we all show up on different days. How much longer before we've put our food supply in their control?
Well, look, I think everybody can agree. We all classified the American truck driver as a hero during COVID.
Yes,
because everybody knew how essential it was to keep the supply chain moving, to keep the food and to keep the goods moving. And that was a critical thing. So even while everybody else was shut down, the American truck drivers had to keep moving. And so that's a really valid point that y'all bring up. Like, why would we ever want to outsource that? And in this case, the way this works is we're actually insourcing. I say outsource to just give it a comparison to what our industry typically does or what factories typically do. But we're actually insourcing the replacement of the American truck driver, who in a time of crisis is the exact people that you need to keep the supply chain moving. And so, yeah, if we were to go to war with one of these countries that we're describing and we're talking about,
yes,
where do their loyalties lie?
Exactly. You just took the words right out of my mouth. We go to war.
Yeah, it might not even be their country, but maybe it's their European Union bloc.
Or maybe it's their religion, Islam.
Right. And so I can give you a great example. There was a crash in 2021. The callers will probably remember this, or the listeners. There was a 100-vehicle pileup in Fort Worth, Texas, on ice. There were several people killed, several people injured. One of the drivers that was involved in that actually caused the fatality, he was from, I believe, one of our Caribbean countries, had gone into Florida and gotten one of these non-domicile commercial driver's licenses, but he was working for a carrier, and the carrier was from Uzbekistan. The owners of the carrier were from Uzbekistan. And so we literally have an environment now where not only are the drivers from foreign countries, but they're working from people from different foreign countries. And so there's zero accountability. So in these cases, so far that driver has stuck around to answer for his, but I've got cases like out in Florida, a kid named Connor, he was hit and killed by a guy from Canada. Of course, it wasn't a Canadian, but the trucking company was from Canada, and they sent us a non-Canadian down here. The guy was on his phone, and he didn't speak English. He kills Connor. And when they got to court and they requested a copy of the cell phone records, of course, the guy didn't comply and he didn't provide the records. And because he was from out of the country, they couldn't force him to provide the records. And so our court system is not set up to manage holding all of these people accountable, whether it's the driver or the company owner, because our system is set up really to manage handling, U.S. companies and U.S. drivers.
Let's go to Jake, line 2. Jake, thanks for calling in, line 2. Go ahead, Jake. Hi, Jake.
Hi. I was just going to mention that, a lot of the drivers, it seems like they come from Somalia and they're coming out of Canada. I talked to another driver. He said he doesn't even go on the East Coast anymore because there's just so many Canada, Somalian drivers. And, I mean, just yesterday I was at a place and there's like a language barrier. It's hard. I kind of just stay off to the side and wait till they clear it. They stick their phones in the shipper and receiver spaces and here's my number, and they're basically just slowing everyone else down. And that's all I had to say.
So again, you're seeing a lot of foreign drivers. You're validating what we're saying.
Oh yeah, and a lot of pickup trucks with flatbeds to get around the CDL. A lot of them do that too.
All right, we'll come back. We're going to get more of your calls. 1-800-347-9829. We'll go to Jason in Minnesota, and anonymous caller, line 1, and your call as well. AmericanTruckers.com, co-founder Shannon Everett. Again, I hope you'll go to worldviewtube.com, get last night's show, tweet it at POTUS on X, at POTUS, at Real Donald Trump. We'll be right back. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
Sue just emailed in, thank you, all exclamation points, for finding a way to alert President Trump and the administration. I really can't thank you enough. Thank you for finding a voice for the truckers. That's what we're doing, and for ourselves. It's a major national security issue, without a doubt. 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. Again, go to worldviewtube.com, pick up last night's TV show with Shannon. Please tweet it at POTUS, at POTUS on X. Also tweet at Real Donald Trump, at Real Donald Trump. You can also do that on his Truth platform as well. We want him to find out about this. We don't think he knows. We think once he knows, action will start to be taken. Maybe even having Jason or Shannon and Harvey go into the White House. That would be a great thing, to have them brief the president themselves. That would be great. Let's go back to the phone calls. Let's go to Jason, line 3 from Minnesota. Hi, Jason.
Hi, a couple quick comments. I'm an over-the-road trucker. I've lost track of how many times I've come close to being run off the road by an immigrant driver. I had to take evasive action to keep from going in the ditch. A couple other quick things, just a little off topic, but if you want to make trucking great again, truckers need more places to park. We need more truck stops. There is a lot of times no place to park at night. That reduces the incentive for Americans to want to drive if they can't find their truck. Or if they can't find a place to park their truck. Third comment is a lot of companies are using driver cams, and most people don't want that invasion of privacy. Imagine having a camera looking at you all the time when you're in the driver's seat. That, too, takes away the incentive for the American guy to want to drive a truck. Thanks much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jason. Last night, we talked about some of the extended cabs that now have, your sleeping quarters, your bathroom, your shower, little kitchenette. There's a weight issue, so that it can become economically not advantageous. But talk about again last night, as we did, making this where young couples who get married, or maybe two guys that have young families, and they'll go out there, two brothers, whatever, two friends, start a business, but don't want to stop at these truck stops, use the facilities, take those showers. They really don't want to do that. I don't. There's got to be ways to make this where we can make American trucking great again and make it so that it is more advantageous to more people. Let me have you comment on that real quick, Shannon. Why don't we have, now I'm not for the government doing a lot of different things. I like to see private industry doing it. But why don't we have a place where private companies can make places for truckers to pull over that's safe, that's secure, that have services, so they can park, and if they need to, get a good clean shower, and things that are regulated high level, so that trucking is something that middle class and up want to even do, maybe in retirement, not making it so that, hey, we don't care what the facilities are like. These are people coming from third world countries. These facilities are great compared to what they're used to. We need to make it so that we treat the professional driver with professional standards when it comes to the showers and getting laundry done and these kind of things. Why have we not encouraged tax breaks for businesses to do this, to cater high end to professional drivers?
Yeah, the truck parking issue is probably one of the highest on the agendas for the Trucking Association and for the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association. It's something that's been talked about at length by all the drivers, and this is something that has everybody's attention. What everybody is not focused on is how bringing in over a million non-domiciled commercial truck drivers or foreign truck drivers would impact parking. Right. So really, the fraud issue, the national security issue, the accident issue, and the parking issue are all connected, because what we're saying is over the last 5 years, our industry has been flooded with additional labor, which is drivers, which requires trucks for them to drive. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. All of these drivers come in, and in 2021 is when it really heated up, and everybody calls that the COVID wave. I call it the immigration wave. And at that time, we saw truck prices double. We saw truck prices that were 4 or 5 years into their life. They already had 400,000, 500,000 miles on them. Those trucks were being sold for the same price as a new truck. Now, the only way that something can happen like that, for it to just go completely off the rails, is for there to be a surge in demand. And so at the time, I didn't have a really good grip of what was causing it. But now looking back, and with the evidence that we have, there were people being dumped into the country intentionally, we believe. And so there was a high demand for the trucks, and there was little availability.
Absolutely.
And so literally, our industry has been flooded with too many trucks and too many drivers. Let's get them off the road.
Exactly.
Then we'll have plenty of parking.
That explains a lot, doesn't it? Anonymous, line 1. Anonymous, go right ahead, sir. Hi, Anonymous. Line 1. Anonymous?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Hello?
Yep, go right ahead.
All right. So, I want to talk about this tracking too a little bit, and then draw your attention to something else. So, I went to pick up food from a Subway, and surprisingly, everybody I saw there was a truck driver. They had like a parking lot for the trucks. And everybody I saw there was an Indian. And I was like, is this an Indian gathering or something? This is America. How are these Indians? And it was like a whole family of Indians trying to gather or do something. I was surprised. And I was asking myself, so which people really have these jobs and are employing these Indians? Do we forget that the easiest weapon that can infiltrate any country is a biochemical weapon, where you can inject something into some food or something, and then it will be brought in anyhow. And I was baffled. But one thing I want you guys to also talk about is the various gangs that have been set up from various countries, especially I think we are being distracted by the gangs from South America, but we should be looking at gangs from the Caribbean and other places as well. Because in Philadelphia, I was watching the news recently, and it's like almost every day a teenager is killed. And it is not because they are involved in anything, but because there is a gang war in Philly. And these things are happening in the full glare of the public, and people are not talking about it.
I'm glad you brought it to our attention. There's the music, so I got to run.
Myself,
but I'm glad you brought it to our attention. Thank you for doing that. The phone lines are still. I mean, we should have gotten to Robert. He's been driving for 50 years. Dan, stolen goods and materials. I mean, the phone lines are melting down on this topic. Again, AmericanTruckers.com, AmericanTruckers.com. Shannon, let's see what kind of response you get. Let's see what happens, and let's get you back on for an update real soon. I mean, maybe even this week or next, as soon as we have more to report, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. AmericanTruckers.com. Thank you, folks. Stay tuned.
This has been...
All right, let me come back. Dan, Shannon, are you back with us, Shannon? We just let our stations go, VCY. We're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida on World YouTube. I mean, here's a gentleman, 50 years he drove. I would love to heard what he said. What about stolen goods? Stolen goods and materials. Again, what are these people driving? I don't know what materials are being stolen, but do we have to worry about some of the chemicals being stolen and what they might be being used for?
Yeah, I believe there's all kinds of national security issues here, not just with the food containment, but also with the chemical chain of custody. We've also got we've had whistleblowers come forward and say that these guys are hauling our military shipments now. So we typically have had a good control over the people that are allowed to come in and out of those facilities. But with them actually being issued United States commercial driver's licenses, that's become an issue. And so it's just completely out of control. I think all of it. I think the president and the Secretary of Transportation need to form an immediate task force that's tasked with identifying these risks and putting our hands around exactly the size and the scope of what we're dealing with here. The fact that nobody's looking at it, the fact that nobody's talking about it, should be alarming to everyone.
Well, and I would say again, tweet at the president and send him the link, and then ask him, please form a task force and include the founders of AmericanTruckers.com. These guys have already done the homework. They've already done the research. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need government bureaucrats to go spend 6 months studying this. We don't have time for that. Tweet at the president, ask him, listen to the show, include a link to last night's show from World YouTube, and say, please form an immediate emergency task force and include on that task force the co-founders of AmericanTruckers.com. Now, on your site, your Twitter feed, we have this lady. I want to play a second of this before we run out of time on our network. Who is she before I play her?
This is the president of the Arkansas Trucking Association.
All right, let's listen to what she has to say.
I got the right Shannon, did I?
There's more than one on the list. I was going to say, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I think I'm going to be super brief because I anticipate some questions. So I'll just elaborate. I'm sorry, Shannon Newton, President, Arkansas Trucking Association. As Representative Hawk said, it was brought to our attention by the Texas Department of Public Safety that they had identified some fraudulent CDLs. Primarily, they were being sold by the cartel, and it has been verified. Even in Arkansas, there was a case when a person was incarcerated in our state and was delivered a fake Mexican LLC in prison. And so verified that is a real thing. And so in order to thwart that, the Texas solution was to require this additional form of ID, which is issued by the United States, whether it be a work permit or work visa. Those are U.S. documents, and that is a way to verify that the individual that is presenting that foreign CDL is who they say they are and is here working legally. And that was our solution in order to help to answer Senator Stubblefield's question about how many there are. It's been very difficult to identify how many there have been presented because there was no way to use a second form of authentication to figure that out.
All right, so there you go. So even she admits that this is a real thing, huh? And now she validates the cartels. Now, why are the cartels doing this? Are they hauling drugs? They're hauling humans? Why are the cartels involved in this?
Yeah, I don't know. Our investigation hasn't gotten yet into that scope. And so that when she mentioned that at the committee hearing, I was kind of taken back by that. It's like, wow, here we have the Arkansas Trucking Association opposing us in the Secure and Safe Roads Act, which is House Bill 1569. But at the same time, their only witness that's up here talking about this issue is admitting that we have fraudulent foreign commercial driver's license. They're admitting that these foreign truck drivers aren't being vetted. That's why they're wanting to issue the United States EAD cards so that we can verify their identity. And so why are we allowing any of it? Let's just revoke their reciprocity and say, hey, guys, we can't trust you. You're not sending us trustworthy people. We can't validate your credentials. We can't validate your background. We can't run an MVR report on your driving history. So what she should be saying is, why are we tolerating any of this? Not trying to say, well, we know all these people are lying, so we're just going to make them have an extra document, which they can lie about too, or fraudulently produce. And so the disagreement here between us and them is like, none of this is okay. we don't want to try to put language around the loophole here. Like, why are we allowing all these foreign CDLs in here?
Well, why would this American association want this? Who is she with again?
She is an extension of the American Trucking Association.
Okay, so why would she want these illegal foreigners in here driving?
There's only one reason: cheap labor.
Big business is now influenced your trucking associations. So your trucking associations don't really represent the driver. They represent big business who need the trucks to deliver their goods.
And that's the gap that we've identified. And that's what we're trying to fill. There is no voice for all these people calling into your show.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of